The Patriots continue to keep their cards close to their chest when it comes to coaching titles. Surprise, surprise, right? When asked about his role, Steve Belichick told reporters, quote, "I don't really know, and honestly, I don't really care." Receiver Nelson Aguilar was asked about who the offensive coaches would be. He's a wily veteran. He didn't fall for it. He said, quote, "Ask Coach Belichick." Shannon, is there any scenario you can see Bill Belichick calling offensive plays this upcoming season?
I don't. It would be a far departure of anything that he's ever done, Skip. He's only coached on the offensive side one time. He was the wide receivers coach in 1977 for the Lions. That was his third year. He was 25 years of age, and now he's a ripe old age. He's 70 plus. So that's been 47 years ago. And if you have him focused on that side of the ball, you take arguably the greatest defensive mind away from what he really does well on Sundays, and that's call and help scheme defenses and make adjustments on the other side of the football. For me, it would have never mattered. Just tell me what my job is. Who's telling me what my job is doesn't matter to me. It's not in my ear. Now, I'm sure during the course of the week, Skip, the same guy that's in Mac Jones' ear during the course of the week will be in his ear during the game. But for me, it didn't matter to me. I knew what my job was, and so who was telling me what my job was on Sunday, it really didn't matter to me. But I don't see a scenario where Coach Belichick is actually calling the plays. I believe it's going to be Joe Judge or it's going to be Patricia, something like that, that's calling the plays.
Joe Judge?
Yeah, Matt Patricia.
Matt Patricia? Are you kidding me? Joe Judge, we do know, is going to coach the quarterback. What? Joe Judge, he did play quarterback in high school. He went to Mississippi State as a quarterback, but quickly failed at that position and became a special teamer. Did very well in school, but he went right into coaching because he failed miserably as a quarterback.
Right.
So really? So that guy qualifies to coach Mac Jones at the NFL level? I don't get it. Is that guy Josh McDaniels II? Is he the new? No. Okay. Mark my words. You can book this. Bill Belichick is setting himself up to call the offensive plays as a legacy move, as an anti-Brady maneuver, as I can top Tom change of plans in New England, because it's hard to compete with Tom in Tampa because it's a loaded football team. Mm-hmm. They're going to be pretty to very good.
Yes, absolutely.
And they look like, on paper at least, they're going to be better than Belichick.
Yes.
And they went up to Belichick last year and they beat him in his place.
Yes.
And it was hard for him to stomach. He did make the playoffs, and then he got wiped out by Buffalo 47-17.
Yes.
What's missing on his legacy? Offense is missing. He's all defense all the time.
Yes.
Well, who is he groomed to be the new Belichick? His son, Steve, right? It's right on cue, right on schedule, right on time for Steve to call the defensive signals. Bill will oversee both during the week, but I will bet you that Bill Belichick will call the offensive plays for the first time ever, because he needs it on his resume, because if he could break through with Mac Jones and he's calling the offensive plays, whew, that would go miles to evening the playing field with him and Brady.
The risk is not worth the reward, because what happens if it's an absolute flop? At least he says, I'm the greatest defensive mind of all time. But the thing is, I don't see it, Skip. I believe it's going to be Joe Judge or Matt Patricia. I just don't see Coach Belichick doing that. But, Skip, they're unconventional. They like doing things unconventional. And guess what happens? If they have success doing it this way, now everybody else is going to do away with titles. Ain't nobody going to have no OC, because now everything is the Patriot way, and everything is the standard, and everything how we do business, because the Patriots said it's the Patriot way. Yep. So everybody now has a way. It's the Tampa way. It's the Raiders way. It's the Chiefs way. It's everything, because they've had success. They've had success winning. So you automatically see everything that they do that leads to winning. And it's like, well, hey, if it's good enough for the Patriots, it's good enough for us. Okay. Yeah, but they had, Tom.
Okay, they had Tom. But Belichick is a student of NFL history. Yeah. He knows that Thomas Wade Landry was a defensive genius who invented what was called the flex defense, where they offset the defensive linemen and had them in funky stances, right? Do you remember this?
I do.
Okay, so he invented that, and what did he insist on doing? He called every play to a fault, because Roger Staubach left a year early because he had concussion issues, but he never got to call his own plays.
Yeah, Coach Landry, he couldn't call offensive plays because Lombardi was the offensive coordinator, which was great. But Skip
in New York,
in New York. But what I'm mad at Coach Landry to this day, rest his soul, is that because when he put it in offense, 1, 3, and 5 was to the right.
That's true.
Because 2, 4, 6 was to the left. Because if you flip it around, that's how he saw it on the other side of the football. So I'm getting to Denver, and they talk about, okay, they called 90 plays. I'm like, I'm going to the left.
Because
no, you're not.
Coach Reeves was chip off the old block.
He absolutely was. It had the same fire in his belly as Coach Landry had. I don't think Coach Landry cursed. Coach Reeves would coach.
Yes.
Coach Reeves would.
Well, guys, we've got another bit of a controversial question for the gridiron. This is one I thought I'd never ask y'all. Is Antonio Brown returning to the Steelers? We'll give you the latest coming up next.
Still Skip is tied to the Dallas Cowboys. That's why the Dallas Cowboy. That's his face. That's his baby. That's his kid. That's Steven. That's Charlotte. That's Jerry Jr. That's everything. That's the Cowboys' legacy. That's his legacy. And you're right. He's never, ever, that's going to be in the Cowboys family forever. Some kids that ain't even been born yet going to be running the Cowboys in 2050, Skip. That's just the way it is. So for me, yeah, of course, most NFL franchise will get more than what the asking price is.
Yep.
But for me, I don't know. I don't think Mr. Kraft, that's not his. Jerry's identity is the Cowboys. It just is, Skip. It just is. I'm sorry. You know him better than anybody. You sat down with him, you talked to him, you interviewed him. You know that the Dallas Cowboys are Jerry Jones.
And now, as a lifelong diehard Dallas Cowboy fan, my biggest regret is that fans aren't allowed to vote an owner out of office. If you could vote him out of office, he would have been voted out a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
But you can't.
Yeah.
So to your point, this is till death do you part, and generationally, it's just going to go generation to generation. So the Dallas Cowboys, maybe to the end of the earth, will be owned by the Jones family in one shape, way, or form, right?
Hopefully you don't get a situation where we've seen like some of the bickering that happens with Mr. Bolin, the kids, and now they're about to sell the franchise because they can't agree that who's going to be in charge. So I don't think that's going to be a situation with the Jones household.
I don't think so.
I think he has everything in place. Okay, this is what I want. This is
like a lineage.
Yeah,
it's like royal lineage.
Stephen, you do this. Charlotte, you do this. Junior, you do that. I think he's got the estate. This is how it's going to work.
That is correct. So you say, what would have happened if he hadn't bought the Cowboys? And I told you the story. He was at an oil and gas convention in Cabo San Lucas, had a long night drinking at the Giggling Marlin was the name of the bar, where you had to drink upside down. They would string you up like a marlin.
Right.
And if you could have as much as you wanted to drink upside down, so he actually participated in that. And he was so hungover the next day, he couldn't go out deep sea fishing with Steven, so he just stayed back in the hotel reading the San Diego Union newspaper, looked at the blurb, Cowboys are for sale. Salomon Brothers is the broker, and he called long distance from the lobby of his hotel in Cabo up to New York, and he said, hi, you don't know me, I'm Jerry Jones, and I'm going to buy the Dallas Cowboys because he's the biggest super salesman ever. And I still don't know how he strung together a deal with baling wire, basically, and found a current owner of the Cowboys named Bum Bright, who hated all things Tom Landry and wanted to choose the one bidder who didn't want to keep Tom Landry because Jerry made it clear, I'm bringing my guy Jimmy Johnson in to be the head coach. And I forgot to look up the exact price that he bought it at. It was like $500 million. It was somewhere in the 600.
Who, Jerry?
Yeah.
No, 140.
Was it 140?
140 million.
You know what? I was thinking of this morning. I forgot to look it up. 140 million.
140 million.
Okay. Think it. I told you 2 weeks ago, you could argue it's the greatest buy in the history of the country because you paid that. You stole the Dallas Cowboys. You bought low, and now you could sell high because I do believe he could get $10 billion.
Yeah, one of the two is them and the Yankees are the two most prominent North American franchises. If I'm not mistaken, I think Mr. Steinbrenner bought the Yankees from the CBS for $7 million in 72, 73.
Okay, so what were the odds of Jerry Jones at 49 staying in the oil and gas business because he had already lost his shirt once. He completely lost it, where he told me he flew into Love Field in Dallas and handed the woman at the car rental counter his credit card, and she cut it in two with scissors. It's defunct, right? Okay, so the point is, it's possible if you stay in that game long enough, you keep going into your 50s, you could hit a bunch of dry. Hey, you want to talk about high risk?
Yeah.
Ooh, it's the highest risk.
It is.
So you have a bunch of dry holes, you go bust. Instead, he made the greatest buy ever because not only was it a great financial buy, but you want to talk about celebrity buy? It put you and your family on the international map.
Yes.
Because they know Jerry in London, they know him in Tokyo, they know all about Jerry Jones. You could argue of that, you talked about that 900, what would you say?
People that got more money than Jerry?
Yeah.
There are a bunch of them.
Okay, there are a whole bunch that have more money, but you could argue on that list, you could go up to Bill Gates. Well, Jerry rivals Bill Gates, I would think, in overall.
Oh, yeah, people know,
Right?
Yeah, there probably more people
Just
probably
name
recognize Jerry Jones walking the street than Bill Gates.
I think, okay. Well, who could say that?
And Bill Gates doesn't have a TV show every week. He doesn't have a radio show every week.